Okay, so you have done these, probably most of you have done this kind of calculation many times. Okay, what's your grade on an assignment when it's not out of 100 points or it's not given to you as a percent? Okay, so go ahead and how do you do these problems? You got 3 points out of 4. What grade is that?
75.
How did you know that? Because it's 3/4.
Yeah.
So that's an easy one, right? 3 points out of 4.
C.
You did that one in your head. That's a mental percent problem you just did. Jasenia. Okay. What about 34 points on a 40-point quiz? That one's not so simple. How do you get your answer score?
Oh, so let's just use that.
How do you get your score or your grade in these other problems?
It's a B. B plus. Wait, B minus. B. This is B.
Okay, so you're going to need a piece of paper now for this part because it's not in the book.
Oh, I just use a calculator.
Well, you're going to use the calculator to get your answers, but you're going to want to write them all down because I'm not going to just have you leave them in your calculator. Okay?
Let me get a piece of paper. Oh my God.
How did you get a B plus?
I divided 34 by 40 and I got 8.85.
8.85?
No, 0.85.
Oh, 0.85.
And that's B.
Because you know that 0.85 is a B?
Yeah, because everybody found that.
Ah, this is 85. Not not 0.85.
Yeah, but it's a percent.
Ah, it's a percent, right? So in your head,
I changed it to a percent.
you're quickly changing that decimal back to a percent.
I didn't say it correctly.
You did, you're right. Okay? So in the problems we just did where you were finding the percent of a number, and they give you the percent, you convert that percent to a decimal and you multiply in your calculator. In these problems where we're giving you the part and the whole, okay, so how many points out of the total of this many points, you do these problems by dividing.
Can't do the next one.
Okay, so 34 divided by 40 in your calculator is 0.85. And convert that to a decimal by moving the decimal point 2 places. Making this bigger and adding a percent sign. Olivia, you with me? I'm going to ask questions of people at home now to see if you're paying attention.
I'm doing all the problems.
Olivia, are you paying attention? What grade do you get here on number 3 on this test? What score did you get? What letter grade?
Have you been pretty much doing it on your own, or have you been helping urge you along?
Are you there, Olivia? What letter grade for your test? Okay, anybody at home?
An A.
An A, who's that? Terry?
No. Rory.
Rory?
Yep. Hmm?
An A is correct. Rory, what's the percent?
93%.
A 93%. 186 divided by 200 in your calculator is 0.93. That's an A. Okay, an IXL assignment, which when I give you a SMART score of 75 on an IXL assignment, and you only get a SMART score of 60, this is the grade I would put in Power School, a 6 out of 7.5. What percent is that? What percent is that, Cameron? And what grade is it? 6 out of 7.5.
6 out of 7.5.
Yep. Do you have a calculator there, Cameron?
I did. Let me go find it.
Who else is out there? Miles. Number 4. What's your letter grade on number 4 on the IXL assignment? Miles, are you there?
It's a
Hello? What?
B.
A B.
It's a B minus.
I think it's a B minus.
Yeah.
What's the percent?
80.
80%. That's a B minus. Okay, if you're worried about the pluses and minuses. Okay, 80% B minus. 6 divided by 7.5 is 0.8. 0.8, move the decimal point 2 places. That's an 80%. Your effort grade for first trimester, 80 out of 96 points. 80 out of 96 points.
It'd be a B plus.
Let's see, who do I need to talk to out there? Rachel.
A B.
A B, what's the percent? What's the percent, Rachel?
An 80.
83%. Okay, now, a lot of times when you do these problems, you're going to get decimals that go on for a long time. They might repeat, they might look like they're not repeating. Okay, so typically you're going to round these off. Sometimes you'll get instructions for rounding them off. Obviously, if you're talking about grades, you can round this off to the nearest whole percent, meaning no decimal in your answer. Okay, so this would be rounded to the nearest whole percent. If I asked you to round this to the nearest tenth of a percent, you would write 83.3%. Okay, so tenth of a percent, you go hundredth of a percent. You can add decimal places here if they're important. Obviously, for grades, they're not important. You round this to the nearest whole percent. Okay, lastly, for the end of the trimester here, this person gets 252 points out of 288 points. Is this person happy at the end of the trimester?
No.
Corey, are they happy?
Yes.
They are, because what grade did they get?
B plus.
A B plus.
Eighty.
Now, some people might not be happy with a B plus. Other people would, cut off a finger for a B plus. So, not really. But it depends on what kind of student you are, right? So some people, a B plus would be disappointing, and some people, a B plus, they would be ecstatic. Okay, and that's okay. Everyone has their own individual goals that they should be working towards, right? But 252 divided by 288 is 0.875.
I rounded it up.
Rounding to the nearest whole percent, because this 5 is a 5 or higher, you round up to 88%. You could also call this 87.5%. Okay? All right, that's the lesson.
Really? Answer wrong because I put the percent in front instead of after.
Um,
On the
okay.
outside.
Yeah, that's it. Okay? Finding the percent when you're given the part, something out of the total, like this grade problem. Okay? You divide those numbers in your calculator, and then it says here times 100%. That just means moving the decimal point 2 places. Okay? So, any fraction or decimal can be written as a percent. Okay? So, remember, we just have done this, right? To convert a decimal to a percent, you move the decimal point 2 places. To convert a fraction to a decimal, we really haven't gone over this, but that's what you just did. You divide in your calculator. That's how you convert any fraction to a decimal. Divide it in your calculator, because every fraction is really a division problem, right? So 48/75, that's 0.64 as a decimal. 12/26 is 0.461538, blah, 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 blah. This thing goes on forever. Okay, we'll talk more about that in the next unit, but for these problems, I can convert this to a percent, right? Because if I have the decimal, then I can convert the decimal to a percent. 91 divided by 96, 95%. 14 divided by 72, 0.1944444444444. Okay, we can round that off. 77 divided by 100, that's 77%. 80 out of 96, right? So these things are given to you in different ways. The part divided by the whole, that's what every fraction is. The part divided by how many parts there are in one whole, 3/4. 3 parts out of 4 parts that make up a whole, okay? So these are not very difficult either. Okay, really what we're doing is we're converting a part over whole, a fraction, to an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 100. Okay, which you can do this by making this, if this number is easy to make to 100, you can do it in your head. Okay, but normally we're just going to do this with a calculator. And we'll do more problems like this in a later topic. Okay? Yes?
Well, not about
Okay.
that.
All right. Now there are some fractions and percents that you should just know. You shouldn't need your calculator for these kinds of things, right? 1/4 as a percent, 25%, a half, 50%, 3/4, 75%, 1/3,
33%.
33.3 repeating. Okay, if you did it in your calculator, 1 divided by 3, that's what you get. Or 33 and 1/3. Okay, so it's not a whole number, 1/3%. Usually you round it off though. 2/3,
67%.
66.6 repeating, which we round off to 67, you're right. 66.6666. If you put this in your calculator, 2 divided by 3, you get 66.66666667 at the end of the display of your calculator. Or as a fraction, 66 and 2/3%. Okay, these are ones that are really useful to know and that people sometimes have trouble with. How about fifths? 1/5. That's the same as 2/10, right? 1/5 is 2/10.
20%.
20%. 2/5 is 40%. 3/5 is 60%. And 4/5 is 80%. So those are nice ones to know. Okay. Whoops, that should be a 40.
That's what I thought.
Oh my goodness, Riley, what are you doing? Boop, fixed on all of you. Okay, and then tenths,
10.
10%. 1/10 is 10%. 3/10, 30%.
Ah!
3/10, 30%. 7/10, 70%. 9/10, 90%. How come I don't have 6/10 up here? It would be 60%, but why didn't I write 6/10 here?
Inference?
6/10 is the same as 3/5, right? 6/10 and 3/5, those are equivalent fractions. So that's why the other ones aren't on. That's why 5/10 isn't on here. 5/10, that's a half, right? 50%. Okay, so these are just good ones to know. And if you practice with them more, you kind of get used to them. All right, real world problems. Okay, so this is what you're going to see in this IXL assignment 49B. The challenge in these problems is making sure you identify the part and the whole so that you do your division the right way. You're dividing the right numbers. Okay, how do you know what the part is and what the whole is? So here's a problem. This is right off the IXL assignment. So you might see this one when you're doing the IXL assignment. Ameliastown voted on a new speed limit. Out of 56 votes, 14 were in favor of the new speed limit. What percent is that? What percent is that? Which is the whole in this problem? What is the whole number, the total? Go ahead, Jasenia. 56, okay? 56 votes is the whole. Come on. Hey, don't. No, I want to grab this. This. 56 votes is the whole. So I'm going to make that, I'll put a rectangle around the whole. Okay. And then I'm going to put a circle around the part. Kind of a good strategy to use when you're identifying them. Okay. The part here, okay, must be 14, right? 14 is the how many out of the 56. Okay. So what am I going to put in my calculator to get this percent? 14, the part divided by the whole. 14 divided by 56. What does that come out to in your calculator? 0.25, which is 25%, because I have them grouped. Okay, so 25% is the answer. 25% of the votes here agreed on the new speed limit? Do you think they would put in the new speed limit?
You,
No, less than half the people, right? What?
you said 14 divided by 56, right?
Yep, 14 out of 56.
That's
The
not
part
bad.
And
divided by the whole.
the IXL actually is, or you can go into IXL.
Okay, now sometimes it is more difficult to find the whole.
You may listen.
Like in this problem. Finn owns 3 dogs and he watches how much they eat. Pumpkin eats 9 kilograms, Fluffy ate 32 kilograms, and Checkers ate 49 kilograms. What percent of the food was eaten by Pumpkin? Yeah, the total you have to get by adding up all of the parts. Okay, so sometimes the problem won't give you the total as a number and you have to figure it out. You have to calculate it by
90.
adding up all the parts. You have a calculator, so you can add them all up. The total kilograms of food here was 90 kilograms.
0.1.
Pumpkin, right? He ate 9 out of 90. You shouldn't need your calculator for that one. 9 out of 90, right? Because you can do it in your head. But if you forget, you put it in your calculator, you go, 0.1, right? When you put it in your calculator, I should have known that one. Okay? So a lot of times you have to calculate the total by adding up all of the parts in some problems. All right? So 9 divided by 90 is 0.1, which means how much of the food, what percent of the food did Pumpkin eat? 10% of the food.
It's giving you so much trouble.
10%. Why are you grabbing that thing? There we go. 10%. Come on. Freely move object. Yep.
Click on it.
It's just being goofy. 10% of the food was eaten by Pumpkin. Kind of weird to say. Okay. All right. So finding the percent when you're given the part and the whole. That's what IXL 49B is.